I'd say John Summerall's first year at Tulane was a success. Sure, losing 3 games to end the season was not ideal, but the Green Wave still made their 3rd straight American Conference Championship appearance and finished the year 9-5, another 9-win season. And now I do believe that Tulane has the talent to make their 4th straight conference title appearance, and I think they might be able to win it this time. Look, last year, again, it could have been a much better year, sure. They started off 1-2. They had the thrilling, upsetting loss to Kansas State at home. Like, controversial, some would say, too. Lost to Oklahoma, but then the Green Wave won 8 straight games. They were one of the best group of 5 teams in the country. Rose as high as number 18 in the country at the end of the season. There was a scenario there where, if Boise State had slipped up and Tulane had found a way to win the American, they would have gone to the college football playoffs. They were still in the mix by season's end, but then they lost their home game, the finale, to Memphis. Then they got destroyed by Army in the American Championship game, and then they got destroyed by Florida in their bowl game. So not a great way to end the year. But again, with a brand new head coach, a lot of new pieces, Tulane, I thought, still had a successful campaign. Now you look at 2025. I won't lie to you. I was very concerned with them offensively coming into the year until they landed Jake Retzlaff at quarterback. And that just happened a few years ago. So they lose Darian Mensah. He goes off to Duke. I'm sitting here and going, God, they lose Mensah. They lose their 1,400-yard rusher in Mekhi Hughes. They lose their top 5 pass catchers, including a 1,000-yard wide receiver in Mario Williams. I'm like, my God, what is Tulane going to do offensively? And then Jake Retzlaff kind of is forced to leave BYU, I guess we could say. Ends up down in New Orleans. He helped lead the Cougars to an 11-win season last year, threw for over 2,900 yards and 20 touchdowns, and rushed for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns. So immediately fills a massive hole that Tulane needed because they really didn't have any great quarterbacks that gave me a lot of confidence going into the season. Retzlaff does that for me. So he is now in a little bit of mobility to go along with that. At running back, yes, losing Mekhi Hughes is a huge loss, but Arnold Barnes did rush for over 400 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, and they add Maurice Turner in from Louisville. The key for Tulane, more than anything, is going to be wide receiver. You've got a good quarterback. I think you've got a good running back core. You've got 93 combined starts on the offensive line, but who is going to be the playmaker at wide receiver? Who are going to be Retzlaff's weapons on this offense? That is the million-dollar question. Right now, there's really no clear wide receiver 1 for Tulane. That's probably my biggest glaring concern on the offensive side of the ball. But I do think that's going to be an issue that gets resolved within the first few weeks of the season. You take a look at the defense as well. That is a strong unit. That was the unit that, again, a couple months ago, before the addition at quarterback and before everything like that, I was like, all right, Tulane might struggle to score a lot, but their defense is going to keep them in just about every game they play. 8 starters back on that side of the ball, including 4 of their top 5 tacklers from last year. A unit that only gave up 20.6 points per game, only 324 yards per game, only 178 passing yards per game. So this is one of the best defenses among group of 5 teams. Their sack leader does return. Cameron Hamilton on the defensive line had 4.5 sacks last year. They also add Santana Hopper, who had 5 sacks last year at Appalachian State. The linebacking core appears to be pretty solid as well. They add Maurice Westmoreland, who had 8 sacks last year with UTEP. And they do return their second leading tackler, Sam Howard, who was also a second-team American selection, All-American selection, or All-American Conference selection, discrepancy there, last season. So Sam Howard, Maurice Westmoreland, and then the secondary does look pretty solid as well. Their third leading tackler from last year, and Bailey Despain does return. Then you've got Jaden Lewis, you've got Jaheim Johnson. You know, John Summerall's squad has a lot of talent at all 3 levels defensively. That was really never a big concern for me heading into this year for Tulane. Now the quarterback position has been addressed, the running back position looks solid, the wide receivers will come into themselves. This appears to be a Tulane squad that could, again, make their 4th straight conference title appearance and maybe actually win it. You take a look at the schedule. Definitely a tougher non-conference slate. I mean, look at the first 4 games. Northwestern, Duke, Ole Miss, so 3 power conference opponents, and then on the road at South Alabama. Certainly not going to be an easy game either. So you're going to learn a lot about this Tulane squad. How great does Retzlaff play with the team, especially joining the program so late? He's got talent, but to get fit into this offense and to build chemistry in such a short amount of time, that's something you do have to be concerned about. Do the wide receivers come onto their own? How does the defense handle power conference opponents they've got to play? And then in conference play, not horrible, but they do draw back-to-back road games at UTSA and Memphis, who are legitimate conference title contenders. Army won the conference last year, destroying Tulane. So definitely not an easy stretch, or not an easy schedule by any stretch of the imagination. I'll tell you right now, though, I think they start 2-0. I do think Tulane starts 2-0. And here's the thing. I picked Tulane to beat Northwestern. Not that that's some big upset or anything, but I picked them to beat Northwestern before the Jake Retzlaff news. This was a prediction we made months ago. I feel even more confident about it now that they have competent quarterback play. So this is a Northwestern team that, has a lot of new pieces as well. Offense was horrendous last year. Yes, they add Preston Stone. Yes, they've got some talent coming in. But again, how quickly does that gel for the Wildcats? They also have 8 stars on defense, so I did project this to be a fairly low-scoring game. But with home field advantage, with an offense I think can actually move the ball now, I'm going to pick Tulane to win that game, just like I'm going to pick them to beat South Alabama, who is a solid team, but they lose their quarterback, Gio Lopez. He's off to join Bill Belichick at North Carolina. They also lose their top rusher, 4 of their top 5 pass catchers, only 3 starters back on defense. Seems to be a year where the Jaguars are going to have to figure a lot of things out, and doing it by week 2 against a good team in Tulane, not really ideal for them. So a great start for John Summerall's squad. Ended the year last year on just a down note, not a lot of momentum. They start strong. They're 2-0, and then let's go ahead and make them 2-2 with back-to-back losses to Duke and Ole Miss. So strong start, and then you play 2 of the better power teams you got to play, and I think they drop both. The Duke game certainly is winnable. It's the Darian Mensah reunion game. Remember, Mensah was really phenomenal, I thought, last year with Tulane. I think if he had stayed there for his entire career, would have been phenomenal, and even, maybe going down to one of the better quarterbacks in Tulane history. But, money talks. And the money talked greater at Duke. So he's at Duke, going to start against his former squad here. Not really a revenge game by any means. Not like he got kicked out or forced out or anything like that. But this is a game that I do think he gets his revenge over his former program, because Duke does have a lot of talent. They're going to take a bit of a step back from last year, but I love Manny Diaz. I think their defensive line is one of the most underrated units within the ACC. People aren't talking nearly enough about that. Obviously, we know what Darian Mensah is capable of. He's got some really good talent around him, both at running back and wide receiver. Duke, to me, is just the more complete team coming into this game, and I do believe they can overcome that home field advantage that Tulane's going to have. So they win that game, and then naturally lose to Ole Miss. The Green Wave have lost, historically, 11 straight games to Ole Miss, and even though the Rebels lose tons from last year, I do believe that they'll have enough to win, especially in Oxford. So 2-2 through the first 4 games of the year. That's really not a bad mark by any means. They get a win over a power conference opponent in Northwestern, and now we enter American Conference play. That's what matters the most. Let's see what Tulane can do. Well, I look at it right now, and I actually think they're going to start a perfect 3-0 in conference play. I think they win their next 3 games. Tulsa should be a breeze. Trey Lamb, the new head coach, and as we've kind of joked a little bit before, Trey Lamb could end up being a better golfer than he is a head coach. Time will tell, but Tulsa got a lot to work on, a lot of new pieces, horrendous defense last year, not going to get much better in year 1. Tulane should cruise past that. Then they get a bye week. They play ECU, and that battle to me is the battle of Tulane secondary, which we mentioned are pretty high on. Looks pretty good. They only allowed 178 passing yards per game last year, now return a lot of talent. That secondary, off a week of rest at home against an ECU passing attack that averaged over 264 passing yards per game. So I'm really excited for that matchup, but I like Tulane a lot more at home in this spot. I think the defense will come through, and the defense for ECU will not. They have only had 2 starters coming back for the Pirates this year. I think they're going to struggle a little bit against this Tulane offense. I think it gets more confident and just better and better with each passing week. So they win that game, and then they get their big revenge over Army. Last year in the American Championship game, as we mentioned, Tulane lost 35-14. That was on the road to the Black Knights. But now you look at this Army team, they just lose so much. Now they're going to fall off completely, but they're certainly not going to match last year's stats, last year's win total, anything like that. Bryson Daly, their leading rusher, their star quarterback, he's gone now. Kanye Udo is gone off to Arizona State. So a lot on the offensive side of the ball gone for Army. The defense should remain pretty strong, but again, this is not as much of a veteran team as they were last year. And I think Tulane, with revenge on their mind, with home field advantage, with the least experienced Army squad, should be able to get the job done. They're 3-0 in conference play. Things are looking really, really good. And then the bye week comes at a perfect time, entering their final 5 games of the year. And it comes at a perfect time because those next 2 games against UTSA and Memphis, both on the road, which is unfortunate, both on the road, that will define Tulane's season. Because again, the American Conference is not what it used to be. The American Conference is, if we're being honest, relatively weak. There are a couple of elite contenders. I say elite. There are a couple of true contenders towards the top of the standings. Maybe 1 or 2 middle-of-the-pack squads, and then a lot of bad teams in there as well. Charlotte's not good. Temple's not good. We mentioned Tulsa's not going to be good. A lot of issues there. So the other 2 main competitors, I would say, in the American are UTSA and Memphis. If Tulane can just find a way to split those games, I think they could be in good shape. If you lose both, you could probably risk missing out on the American Championship game because that would mean UTSA and Memphis would both own the tie-breaking over them if it came to that. And I'm here to tell you, I actually do think Tulane splits those two games. Best case, you win two. Worst case, you lose both. I think you got to find a way to keep your hopes alive. You got to find a way to split them. Tulane does that. They will lose on the road to UTSA. They will beat Memphis on the road. The Roadrunners, to me, are the better team. Thursday night in the Alamo Dome, a place where the Roadrunners are 29-4 in the last 5 seasons under Jeff Traylor. So they have played very, very well at home. And they will have one of the best offenses in this conference, led by Owen McCown at quarterback. So 9 starters back on offense. Your starting quarterback's one of them. All but one of your top pass catchers returns. The defense will improve as the year goes on and will improve, I think, really right from the start. All signs to me pointing towards a UTSA victory here. Jeff Traylor doing a phenomenal job with this program. It's a very difficult place to play. So I think they dropped that game there, but they beat Memphis. The home team, in Memphis and Tulane, has lost the last 2, and Tulane had a bit of revenge on their mind. They had a opportunity to keep those playoff hopes alive had they defeated Memphis. Probably wasn't going to happen. It wouldn't have happened because Boise State still won. But regardless, at home, in the top 20, they get beat by 10 points to Memphis last year, 34-24. The year prior, Tulane did win at the Liberty Bowl, 31-21. I look at Memphis right now. They're a good team, got a lot of talent, really like Ryan Silverfield, but similar to Tulane, I am concerned about their wide receiver core. And I actually like Jake Retzlaff more than Brendan Lewis. So I look at this game, and if Tulane contains Brendan Lewis and says, hey, beat me through the air, we're not going to allow you to run. You've got to beat us through the air, Brendan Lewis. I don't think he can do it. Certainly not going to be able to do it against this good of a defense. So I look at this game. I like Tulane's quarterback a little bit better. I like their defense a lot better. I think they can overcome the home field advantage. They won there 2 years ago. They can do it again now. They beat Memphis, which is massive, because I think they win their next 3 after that because they're playing 3 of the worst teams within the conference. Florida Atlantic is dealing with a new coach. And Zach Kitley, they could have a good offense. They're not going to have a good defense. And it's also homecoming for Tulane, by the way. On the road at Temple, who they beat by 46 points last year and is still in a bit of a rebuild mode with a new coach. And then they have Charlotte on senior day at home, who they beat by 31 points last year. Once again, new coach, lots of struggles, not going to be that good. So, again, the season comes down, at least in conference play, to UTSA and Memphis. ECU's not easy. Army's not easy, but Tulane gets both of them at home. If they can find a way to split those 2 big road games, they're going to be just fine. I believe they do just that, which means we have Tulane going 9-3 overall, which is a heck of a record, and even better, 7-1 in conference play. 7-1 in conference play, the only conference loss coming on the road to UTSA, meaning that's going to be good enough to get into the American Championship game. Barring something crazy happening, I don't see that. I don't really know if any team in the American can go undefeated in conference play. And if they do go 7-1, you look at that. They would only lose that tiebreaker to UTSA. They would own the tiebreaker over Memphis. They would own the tiebreaker over Army if they go on a big run. The only other competitor that maybe could make some crazy run in the American might be Navy. So Tulane sitting really pretty at 9-3, 7-1 conference play should be good enough to get them to their 4th straight American Conference title. And I do believe, as I said, they have a very good chance to win it this year. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to our expert picks. Some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country, beating out over 80% of the national handicappers each of the last 6 years. You do not want to miss out on that. The link for it down in the description below, along with our weekly newsletters, also over on thegridironexpert.com. Take advantage of all of it today. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.